All right, Dolphins, Texans. Texans 2.5-point favorites. 46.5 points is the over-under. Some injury notes. Jalen Petrie, unfortunately, torn pec, out for the season. Kenyon Green, though, left guard back. Not sure that's an upgrade or anything to write home about, but he's back. So it's
he's had some snaps.
Yeah, he'll play. Maybe not. He may not even play, even though he's practicing. But Dolphins hot of late. Obviously, still playoff hopes alive. Texans not hot necessarily of late, but still easily atop the AFC South at 8-5. How do we see this one going? Because this one I've gone back and forth on a few times.
I see Mike McDaniel coming out with a really aggressive mindset against this Houston Texans team because we know that CJ hasn't had the best protection this year. And if I'm Tua Tagovailoa, if I'm this offense, I'm going for touchdowns early. I'm not selling for field goals. You can afford to be aggressive. We've seen this offense sputter in Houston relative to the previous year where we said that this may be the best offense in football. And obviously they've dealt with injuries and they've got a number of things that are not going their way. For the Dolphins, they've been hot offensively. And obviously some games haven't gone their way, but I do have the utmost in faith in McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa to get this thing rolling. And if you get it rolling early, they can kind of be like, same old song here in Houston, same old song. And you know what the great thing about Houston is? It's going to be good weather. It's going to be inside. NRG Stadium, Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins, they do really well at room temperature. So I'm 100% going to be in on the Dolphins in this game.
I like the Dolphins too. The Texans just feel kind of mismatched. They can never put together a full game on both sides of the football, it seems like. And I mean, some of it has to fall on Stroud. I know the production hasn't been great, but I saw this stat this week, according to FTN Fantasy, who does some good charting. They actually have a lot of people that came over from PFF that do their charting. Stroud has 718 missed yards on throws where the target was open by more than a yard of separation. So the most in the NFL this season. That's tough. It's like, it's hard to sugarcoat that when that's supposed to be a strength, right? That was who he was coming out of Ohio State. That's who he was last year, a guy who doesn't miss a lot of throws, and he's missed a ton this year. So without Jalen Petrie, who does so much for that defense as a Swiss Army knife, and just a guy who would defend a lot of those routes over the middle of the football field that they thrive on, a lot of those screens he would blow up on the outside that the Dolphins love to run. Without him, there's just not a guy like that in that defense, especially with such a young safety position that they already have. So I'm worried, and I think I'm with you. I like the Dolphins in this one.
And you know what's crazy about this Texans team? This is the one team where we're like, well, they're going to win the division. They're going to be in the playoffs. But they have gotten like exponentially more lackluster week in, week out.
Yes.
And
there hasn't been a flip.
This was the one team that we were like, they just got to get into the playoffs and they're going to be fine because they got CJ Stroud and we all fell in love with Bobby Slowick. And that, remains to be seen whether or not that's fool's gold. But they have been disappointing, man. And like every other team in the National Football League, they've had some injuries. They've had some poor offensive line play at times. But I think the issue is bigger than that. And we're probably going to know more about that as the season goes on. I know it's week 15, but I say as the season goes on. We're going to see them in the playoffs. We're probably going to see them lose round one, in my opinion. And there are going to be a lot of questions and probably a lot of changes in Houston this offseason.
And for as much as everyone knows about this Texans defense, right? And it's like D'Amico Ryans, all the talent they have, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, Derek Stingley Jr. They've allowed almost the exact same amount of points this season as the Miami Dolphins. Like they are identical in terms of their defenses this year. And I don't think anyone's going to bat for this Miami defense. So, give me the Dolphins. That's a roundabout way of saying.
Fence.